Hey guys, how you doing? It's Adam Oxby here, sitting in my garden on a beautiful day here in Colchester. Now, if there's one thing that you can safely say about me is that I don't need more gadgets or devices to aid in my fitness journey, but I've somehow managed to acquire 4 things that I wanted to quickly talk to you about. Now, I've managed to get COVID-19 for the second time. The first time that I got it was last March, when we were just on the verge of entering the first lockdown here in the UK. Now, on that occasion when I got it, I have never, hand on heart, never felt so poorly in my life. And since speaking to my parents recently, they revealed to me how worried they were at the time, because of, obviously, although I'm sort of relatively young and healthy, this was a new virus and nobody knew what effect it would have. So yeah, quite a period of uncertainty and anxiety there. But this time around, thankfully, due partly I suppose to my exposure the first time round, and because I've been grateful and thankful enough to receive 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, all I suffered was a minor headache and the inconvenience of being isolated for 10 days, but a minor inconvenience at the most. So there you go. Take what you will from that, and suffice it for me to say that I urge you all to have the vaccine at the earliest possible opportunity. So, that aside, while I've been in lockdown, I've decided that one of the things I really missed was cycling. I used to cycle my daughter to school and back, which was a nice little sort of medium length bit of cardio, which I really appreciated. So I thought, how could I recreate that here in the garden or at home? And I found on Amazon, relatively inexpensively, a device that attaches to the back of your bike, which you just clamp to your rear wheel, engage a little dynamo, and you can happily cycle along and turn your normal road bike into an exercise bike. I paid a little bit more to get the one which had the variable resistance, which is definitely recommended. And yeah, I mean, obviously nothing compares to the real thing, but then again, some people don't want to have the risk of being knocked over by a driver or worry about breathing in car exhaust fumes. So perhaps this might be preferable to some people, who knows. But definitely something that's helped me maintain a level of cardio fitness, or just add to my arsenal while here in isolation. The second thing that is considerably less inexpensive is something called Lumen. Now, I've been very obsessed with wearables and technology and data, and helpful data, so not just data for data's sake. I'm just getting to the point now where I believe that my data dashboard, which I'll put a link to in the description, which is a collation of all of sort of the metrics and the other bits of information regarding health, comes together and provides you with insights to help you become a better person, or a more active and healthy person. Now, all of these are really great, but there was something that was missing, and that was this new emerging trend of analysing metabolism. But I think now we're just getting to the point where we realise just how important metabolism and how unique metabolism is for each person. Now, I've seen a lot of the sort of cutting edge biohackers on YouTube and other places showing off continuous glucose monitoring systems. This is something that you wear. It's a very small sort of implant that you just attach to your upper arm, ostensibly for diabetics, to monitor what their blood glucose levels are throughout the day, rather than having to go through the discomfort of a finger prick test and all this sort of stuff, and helps them make better choices regarding their nutrition. But some clever people have decided to use that, not if they're diabetic, but to try and see what effect the food that they are eating has on their individual metabolism. Now, I'll be honest, I was tempted, but I don't think I could have got away with the argument of having to wear a patch of plastic on my arm at all times just for the sake of my own personal fitness. I think that would have been something that would have raised one or two eyebrows amongst my friends and family. But the next best thing is this device called Lumen. Now what you do is you breathe in as deeply as you can and then just exhale into this small sort of like vape looking device, and it analyzes your carbon dioxide to give you an idea of what fuel you are burning at this particular time, whether it's mostly fat that you're burning or whether it's mostly carbs. And this will help you decide what fuel to use for pre-exercise, how did your last meal affect you, all these sort of things. And this is typically would have been the reserve of high performance athletes who had the time, money and resources to go to a lab and be strapped up to devices and monitor their metabolism throughout the day, whereas now we've got the ability to actually have this device in our pocket and at any moment just whip it out, give it a quick puff, and you'll realise what it is that your body is currently burning. I've yet to find the sweet spot of where this is really helping me, because my diet is such that I use a lot of things like Huel and these sort of things, and they've obviously got their amount of carbs in there, and I don't really eat many carbs outside of them, but it's still quite fascinating and interesting to see just what effect like a big heavy meal the night before has when you wake up. So in the morning, typically if you'd wake up, you'd expect to be burning mostly fat because you've obviously been fasting for an extended period of time. But if you've had a really, really carb heavy meal the night before, your body will still be using those carbs to burn them off. So that kind of stuff's interesting. So still finding the sweet spot on that. Another device that I've got strapped to my leg, which looks a bit like a tag for a criminal if I was to be GPS tagged, is called the Apollo Neuro. Now what this does is it uses a really clever sort of principle of neuroscience of these sort of vibrations that can affect your mood. It gently vibrates, not dissimilar to like how a mobile phone vibrates in your pocket. And the way that works is, depending on the frequency of these vibrations, it can actually affect your mood. And not only affect your mood from a sort of psychological placebo-ish effect, but can actually affect you in measurable data terms. So your heart rate variability, which is kind of like now considered the gold standard of ascertaining fitness. So how quickly your heart rate can revert back to its sort of standard resting rate. So for example, if you do a heavy workout, how does your heart rate get back to its normal after that workout? If it happens quickly, that could be a sign of better health. Now, studies have shown that this device actually increases people's beneficial heart rate variability in all cases, which is pretty impressive. And I have to say that having it just gently, almost imperceptibly vibrating on your leg, unbeknownst to anybody, really does help. And it's a really strange thing to go into the app and sort of select what kind of mood you want to be induced into. Do you want to be sort of revitalized and energized in the morning, or do you want to relax and get into a more meditative state? That kind of stuff's really, really odd and fascinating, but I have to say it works, and it's a very odd thing to be partaking in, but if it works, it works. And the final bit of technology that is currently strapped to my body is underneath my Apple Watch, on the inside of my wrist, just hidden under the strap, is a little device called a Pavlog. Now, this has been around for a while, and I've noticed it popping up on my feeds and kind of shrugged it off, thinking this is nonsense. But what it does is, and the reason why I've chose it, is because it shocks you on your command. So you press a little button, which I'm going to do now. Lord, oh Lord. It gives you an electric shock. Now, why do you want to do this? Well, as the name suggests, it is based on sort of the Pavlovian response. A Pavlovian response. So, if you are engaged in a mental habit that you don't want to continue, if you are about to take, a cookie from the cookie jar that you don't want to eat. You press it, give yourself a shock, and over time you are interrupting that thought, action, habitual process by interrupting it with a shock. So next time you'll think of that shock, and over time you will break that habit. Now, I found it to be sort of successful on and off. Obviously you have to be engaged enough to actually think, I'm going to press that, or you could just ignore it and say, I'm going to partake in that habit irrespective, and not bother shocking yourself, which is obviously on your doing. It shows that you obviously don't want to quit that habit as much as you want to. So I've had this sort of on and off success with that aspect of it. But one aspect that's really quite cool, and I should just say, you can sort of do all sort of fancy setups, like have it shock you if you go near a fast food restaurant or something using geolocation. But I've not done that kind of thing, or have it vibrate to warn you if your hand goes towards your mouth as if you were, going to have a cigarette. But one aspect that I have found it to be kind of invaluable is as a wake-up aid. So you strap it to the inside of your wrist using the rather comfortable straps that it comes provided with, and what they do is you can set it to just vibrate or moderately zap you in the morning, and that little shock of electricity gives you a bit of spurt of adrenaline, which aids your waking up process. And you can get fancy and have your phone have to scan a QR code to actually stop it, or do jumping jacks to stop it from electrocuting you, and all these other sort of things. So yeah, a kind of an odd thing to tell my friends about, that I've got a device that electrocutes me if I don't wake up properly. But as somebody who has gone from being quite a fairly okay morning person to somebody who really is now struggling in the mornings, this is something that's really the killer feature, the thing that's really keeping me putting it on every night. And also does things like monitor your sleep, but frankly I've got enough of those sort of things. But anyway, more articles are coming soon, in particular the continuation of my old Student Nursing Times articles back when I was the student nurse editor for that prestigious publication. I'm going to be recording more of the old articles that I wrote for them, and you can expect to see those online really soon. And if you haven't visited adamroxby.uk and subscribed to my occasional newsletter, I do encourage it. But other than that, all that remains for me is to say I hope you are well in these times, and I look forward to speaking to you, as always, really soon.